programa ha comenzado.
Welcome and thank you all for being here.
Bienvenidos, gracias a todos por estar aquí.
I'm going to go ahead and get started since we have a lot to cover.
Vamos a comenzar ya que tenemos mucho que cubrir.
Thank you, Rodrigo. So as you can tell, this program is
Como
going to be
pueden
translated.
decir, este programa va a estar traducido.
In just a moment, I will turn interpretation on, and from there,
Solo un momento voy a aprender la interpretación.
you'll see interpretation in the lower
Van a ver
right-hand corner.
interpretación
Please
en
choose
la
your
parte de
respective
abajo.
language and then click
Usen
mute original audio.
el idioma que ustedes quieran y escojan idioma original.
All right, folks. So again, please choose your respective language and be sure to click mute original audio. All right. Thank you all for being here. Today, we are going to be covering irrigation programming and how to program your irrigation time clock. My name is Liz, and I'm the Climate Resilient Program Manager for DailyAxe. For those of you who do not know, DailyAxe is a small and mighty environmental education nonprofit that is based in Petaluma and mainly working throughout Sonoma County to provide people with the knowledge, skills, and resources to be able to live a rich and full lifestyle while also having a smaller environmental impact. DailyAxe works hard to connect people and build community through our education programs, our action campaigns, and by influencing policies that address the climate crisis. And we also are working to create a livable future for all. Over the last 20 years, our impacts have been far and wide, and we are so grateful for the partnerships that we've made and for all of you that continue to believe in the powers of your daily actions. So thank you for being here today, and I hope you leave with some newfound knowledge. For today's program, we are in a webinar format, so there are going to be a few specific ways for you to engage. Please use the Q&A box that you should see within your Zoom controls to ask any questions throughout the presentation. We are going to hold questions at the end of each presentation. So again, please use the Q&A box if anything comes up between now and then. If you would like to use the chat, you can use that to interact with your fellow attendees or with the panelists. Just be sure that your settings are set to either everyone or just the panelists, depending on who you want to engage with. Again, as I just alluded to, DailyAxe has strong partnerships with many different companies and organizations, and tonight's program is brought to you through a partnership with Valley Water. We are so grateful to have this partnership and to be able to extend our reach and our impact. So we have a number of different experts joining us. We've got Valley Water and we have Shelkie with Water Efficient Gardens. I'll let both parties introduce themselves in just a moment, but I just want to really emphasize how grateful we are for this collaboration and these shared resources and expertise. So with that, Ashley, I think I'll pass it your way.
Well, thank you. And Liz, we are, Valley Water is also really excited about this partnership with DailyAxe and offering this webinar series. My name is Ashley Shannon. I am a senior water conservation specialist with Valley Water, and I run our landscape rebate program, among others. But a little background on us. Actually, do we have a slide for this?
Within my presentation, there is no slide.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. So Valley Water, we're a special district. We're a water agency that provides 3 core services to over 2 million people who live and work in the South Bay area. We're a water wholesaler, and we work in partnership with 15 cities and 13 major water retailers to provide safe, clean water, flood protection, and creek stewardship for our community here in Santa Clara County. Water conservation is essential for ensuring a clean, reliable water source, water supply. And so we really thank you all for joining us so you can learn how you can improve your water efficiency and reduce your water usage. Let me pull up 1 second. I thought a slide was in front of me. This presentation is especially important today because Valley Water has implemented a series of water restrictions for our county that program your irrigation controller, and understanding that is going to reflect directly. And so we've implemented a 2-day per week watering restriction for areas in the county that receive water from Valley Water. Also restrictions on the time of days for irrigation. So this is limiting irrigation to early mornings, evenings, when the temperatures are lowest, to avoid increased evaporation. These are also restrictions on things like waterways through irrigation running down sidewalks, overspray, broken irrigation controller, sprinklers, etc. And so these are the sorts of things that these tips today that Shelkie is going to talk about are really important. Our enforcement of these is based in education. You may see water waste inspectors that are out. If you do get a knock on the door saying, hey, a neighbor noticed a broken sprinkler. We're here to educate you, provide you with resources. Here are programs that we offer and materials that we offer and resources so that you can help fix these issues. So this webinar today is really, really important because with the 2-day per week watering restriction, you really have to understand your irrigation controller and how to incorporate that. So I'm really excited to pass this off to Shelkie, but we can also take a couple questions if you'd like about our watering restrictions or what we do as Valley Water.
Thank you for that really engaging overview. Ashley, you all do so much and offer so many different resources. I'm not seeing any questions at this time, but for anybody who is joining us, please know that we have a wealth of expertise here. So if any questions do come up at all during the presentation, again, please use the Q&A box. And perhaps with that, we can go ahead and switch over to Shelkie. Ashley, thank you again for the introduction.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Glad to talk to you tonight about how to program controllers. This is a very important topic, very interesting. Thank you, Daily Ads and Valley Water for giving me this opportunity. Can I go ahead and share the PowerPoint?
Absolutely. Do you see your permissions to share?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, a little bit about myself. My name is Shelkie Tao. I'm a landscape designer, the owner and designer for the business Water Efficient Gardens. We are an online landscape design service that excel at native and drought-tolerant landscaping. We are experts in designing beautiful, water-efficient, eco-friendly landscapes that support biodiversity. We have helped dozens of homeowners across the state, in the Bay Area, as well as across the state, to transform their lawn into native and drought-tolerant landscaping. Okay, I will share my PowerPoint. Okay, so tonight we are going to talk about how to program controllers. It's a very interesting, very practical, very important topic. As we all know, right now, we are facing a very severe drought. Saving water is really important. There are many ways to save water. Outdoor landscaping accounts for about 1/3 to half of all the urban water. So to save outdoor landscaping water is one of the most important ways that we can save water. For outdoor landscaping, there are multiple ways to do that too. One way is to plant-based. We can choose low water plants like we see on the left. That's one way. another way we can do it from irrigation, like the controller we are going to talk about here. So tonight, we are going to cover these areas. So what are the main, some major types of controllers? What are the inputs and how they affect scheduling? What's an irrigation zone? What are some of the programming concepts? We should also program for trees. And we also can learn a little bit about flow sensors, how to pair that with a controller. Now, let's look at what are standard versus smart controllers.
Shelkie, I don't mean to interrupt, just one moment. We have
Sure.
a couple of people in the chat that are saying that they cannot hear the speaker. I just want to take a moment to reiterate some settings. So this program is being interpreted. I can hear you just fine, Shelkie. For anybody who may not be able to hear us, hopefully you can hear me now. If you click under your Zoom controls, you should see a globe icon. If you click that globe icon, please go ahead and click either English or Spanish. And then please be sure to click mute original audio.
Shelkie, have you also selected English and mute original audio?
Oh, sorry. I
think that
yeah.
that's perfect.
Nice.
So should I go ahead and do it now? How should I?
Yes,
Should I?
please
So,
do.
Go to audio settings.
Oh, you're just actually going to select the globe at the bottom that says interpretation. Do you see it next to raise hand?
For anybody who cannot hear us right now, we're trying to troubleshoot. So hang tight and thanks for your patience.
I only see chat, Q&A, new share. Oh, I see.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so-
Live
Yes.
your screen share. Sorry,
That's okay.
So, sorry, can you tell me again where I should go?
Yes, so you'll see raise hand, share screen, and you'll see interpretation on the bottom bar next to raise hand, share screen, chat, Q&A, on that black bar at the bottom.
Yeah, I
Okay,
see.
so select interpretation, and then you're going to select English, and then you'll select mute original audio.
I did not see interpretation on my.
I wonder if I'll make you a co-host in case it gives you any additional permissions. Sure. It's a globe icon for what that's worth. Or if you go to more as a co-host now, if you go to your Zoom settings and click more,
Yes.
do you see interpretation as one of
Yes.
those? Nice.
Yeah, I see it now. Oh, okay. English.
Yeah. And then,
Yes.
English,
And
and
then-
then click mute
and then-
original audio as well.
Original. So I see interpretation. Okay, mute original audio. Should I mute or should I not?
Yes, yes, please.
Mute. Okay. Okay, did that. Okay.
And then everyone in the audience also select, yes, perfect. So everyone else will select mute original audio and their language.
Should I
Thank
continue
you.
now?
I think from here, Shelkie, yeah, you can continue and you can, if you wanted to restart and back up just a slide or two, I think that works well. And thank you to everybody in the chat for letting us know that was not operating. We're learning a lot and we're glad we're learning together.
Okay, let me go to the very beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm happy to talk to you about how to program controllers tonight. My name is Shelkie Tao. I'm the designer and owner of Water Efficient Gardens. We are an online landscape design service that excel at in designing native and drought-tolerant landscapes. we have helped dozens of homeowners around the Bay Area and across the state to transform their lawns into native landscaping. So tonight, we are going to talk about controllers. This is a very important topic, very practical, interesting, and very important. We are facing a very severe drought now. To save water is really critical. Since outdoor irrigation water account for almost half of all the water we use, to save water in outdoor landscaping is really important for all of us. There are multiple ways that we can do that. As you can see on the left, one way is plant-based, that we choose low water use plants instead of high water use, like turf and lawns. Another way is to do it from irrigation, like the controller is a big part of that, and the irrigation equipment and so forth. So, so tonight we are going to talk about controllers. These are the main topics we are going to cover tonight. We are going to look at two major types of controllers, the standard one and the smart ones. Then we will understand what are their inputs and why they affect the scheduling. The basics of irrigation zone, some concepts about programming, how we should remember to program for trees, and also look at a little bit about flow sensors. First, let's look at these two major types of controllers. So what is a controller? Basically, you can think of it as the brain of the irrigation system. It controls how the water is applied to the plants. As we all know, all kinds of plants like us, they need water to survive and grow. And then every household, we have the water from city. From the city water, as you can see, the meter on the left corner, to the plants. How is that water applied to the plants? At what time, at what frequency? So that is controlled by the controller, as its name indicates. So the controller, it connects with the valve, and then from there, it has this schedule that can allow the water to be applied to the plants at fixed schedule, at the schedule that it is programmed. So these two different types of controllers, the main difference is the standard ones or the traditional ones, they are on fixed schedules only. Whatever you program it, it will just work that way. The smart controllers, on the other hand, it's connected to the local weather station. So it can use local weather information and other information to adjust, to tailor the watering schedule. So that's why it's called smart, because it can use this information smartly to help with the watering schedule. Now, what are some of these controller inputs? These are the main types of inputs. Together, from different ways, they all impact how much water a zone or a field, how much water should be applied to that field or to the plants in that zone. These main inputs are soil types, plant types, the sprinkler types, sunshade, and slope. Let's look at the soil type. There are three major types of soil, sand, loam, and clay. So sand, as you can see, right? If we go to beach, that's sand. It has the least capacity to hold water. Clay on the other side, on the other hand, has the most capacity. Loam is something in the middle. To find out what type of soil it is, you can do a simple test. Just take a small handful of soil and put in your palm, and then just squeeze it into a ball. And then from there, you try to squeeze a ribbon out of the ball. And depending on how long that ribbon can be formed, you can kind of tell what kind of soil it is. If it cannot form at all, then it's set. If the ribbon can be formed very long, then likely it's a clay. It's clay. And if it's something like what you see in the picture, then likely it's a loam. The soil types have a big plays a big role into in how much water it can take. So if you look at the graph on the left, sand has the lowest capacity to hold water, but clay and loam has the highest. So if for the same size area of the of a lawn, for example, if it's sand, then the water it can hold is much less than clay soil type can hold. The second factor is the plant type. As we all know, there are huge difference among plants, how much water they can take or they need. In California, we have this WUCOS standard that categorize plants, all the plants into these 4 categories: high, moderate, low, and very low. The high ones are like turf, annuals, that really needs a lot of water. The moderate are a lot of the ornamentals, like the roses, and many ornamentals we see around us. The low ones, many California natives, like the yarrow. And then the very low ones are like the some of the really low water use native plants, like the poppies and many others. So we talk about how plant-based can be a big way of saving water. So it is, because they determine how much water they need. If for the same area, same size of the area, if we put in the lawn, or if we put in all these very low water use native plants, definitely the water use are very, very different. Root depth also plays another big role. So as you can see, the curve has very shallow roots. With that, they really need to be watered very frequently. Say like in hot days, really like daily or something like that. Because without that frequency, they just will not get the water they need. Native plants, on the other hand, have very deep roots. With that, they can go to very deep surface to get the water. So they don't need to be watered that frequently. For established native plants, they may only need water like even in hot summer days, like once a month or even longer. So the root depth, that's another big factor for how much water it's needed. Sun exposure, huge factor. If it's full sun, then more water is needed. In shade, less water. Same here, lot of water, not as much water. Slope. We all know the more steep the slope, the more runoff of the water, and the water demand is higher. So it's advisable that it's advised that we should not have lawns or plants on a very steep slope, because the water will just simply run off. The next big factor is the equipment irrigation type. We have these 4 major types of irrigation equipments. The first one is spray. That's the one that we see very often. In spray, we also have the fixed spray and the multiple rotating stream, multiple stream spray. We also have rotors. It's one single fixed stream, and then itself, it rotates. That's why it's called rotor. So this is mainly for those big lawns. It can cover a big range of the field. For drip, we also have like these 2 types. One is the drip emitter. You can see the water will just drip from this emitter. Another type is called netting line, this brown line. So you might not see it, but there are holes like about every 1 feet apart. So when it waters, during water time, the water will just come out from these holes and water the plants next to them. Spray and rotor use much more water than drips. And also drip, because it's applied very precisely right to the root area of the plants. And it won't have the evaporation like we will see in spray and rotor. So several factors are combined, and much less and almost no runoff because it won't spray like that. All these factors combined, drip saves a lot of water compared to spray and rotors. That's why for low water landscaping, we always suggest that go with the irrigation. Hydrozone. Hydrozone is a group of plants with the same water use. So, and one hydrozone, it's like one valve can be assigned to one hydrozone. So basically you can think of like the different groups of plants where they have different or similar needs for water or the amount of water. If you have lawns, then that's one group or one zone. If you have these low water use plants, that's another zone. To better manage them, because the water they need are so different. So then we will just assign different zones or different valves to them. And then we can control that based on the valve from the controller. One zone is one valve and one program. So with that, we can effectively manage many different zones. For example, if you have high water use zones, then we will assign one program. And then if we have low water use zones, then we can assign another program. So this way, water can be saved or used effectively. If everyone is in the high water zones, then even the low water plants will receive a lot of water. That's not only a waste, but also not good for the health of the plants themselves. The hydrozone is a very critical concept in irrigation water efficiency. So if we look at this photo, so actually we can say there are 3 zones in this photo. Zone 1 is long. Zone 2 is this low water native plants landscape. Actually, there should be another zone just for the tree, zone 3. We are going to talk about that in 1 second, but trees also need to be watered very much, but it needs its own schedule. That's why a lot of the trees should have their own zone to manage that. Let's look at another garden here. This is another front yard garden. As you can see, there's this veggie bed, one bed here, and then all the others as low water plants. So the veggie garden, they have their own schedule. most likely, for example, in hot days like this, it needs to be watered every day. While these low water plants, they might only need to be watered once or twice a week. So we should also have 2 different zones to manage them. So now we understand what a hydro zone is, then we can talk about how to program by the zone. So the first one, let's look at here, is the standard controller. As you can see here, program B. That's where you can program for any specific zone, A, B, C, and D, and so forth. For each zone, you can program like how often, the start time, and the run time. For a smart controller, same thing. You can just pick a zone and then go in there and then program the different frequency and start time and run time. There is this concept called cycle and soak. What is cycle and soak? That basically means that we should not water indefinitely. There should be a cycle so that no runoff should happen. If we look at this chart, for any specific soil type, it has this specific field capacity. It's a pretty complex concept. For simplicity, for now, let's understand that as this point, after which, if you continue to water, the soil cannot absorb anymore. And so it will just run off. So this runoff point or field capacity point is the point that we should stop the watering and let the water soak down. And then only after that, then we should start watering again. We can say for this long, because the runoff is pretty bad. One reason might be it's being watered too long and the soil cannot take any more and it will just run off. As we can see, it's a huge waste. So that's something we should all try to prevent. Let's look at an example. Say for a lawn, we need to water 80 minutes a week. So if we just keep watering it for 40 minutes, so say right now we can only water twice a week with the new regulation. So 80 minutes per week means 2 times watering. 2 watering in a week. So that means 40 minutes for 1 watering. So should we do 40 minutes for that 1 watering? Maybe not, because if we look at this graph, right, it's the runoff point is 30 minutes. That means after the first 30 minutes, the remaining 10 minutes, the water will just run off. That's something we should avoid. To avoid that, what we can do is to break that into 2 cycles. So 40 divided by 2 is 20 minutes. So instead of doing 1 40-minute cycle, we can do 2 20-minute cycles. So we can do the 2 cycles on a single day, and then we can just schedule 2 different start times. For example, we can start, the first cycle can start at 5 o'clock, from 5 to 5:20 a.m. And then the second cycle at, let's say, at 6 o'clock and from 6 to 6:20 a.m. This way, the water can be absorbed into the soil and can be used efficiently, and no runoff will happen. This is a chart by the San Jose Water Company that has some very useful information about watering times. These are based on the watering days per week Now with the new regulation, this will be changed to 2 times a week. So with that, we can just increase the cycles per day on the days where when we water. But the idea is that we can always try to break a long cycle into smaller ones, so to avoid the runoff. If we look at this chart, we are in May now. So for it's 2 watering per week, and then for each cycle we do it for 29 minutes, and then for 1 day we do 3 cycles. That's what we can do now. But then for June and July, then we need to change that to only 2, and then adjust these minutes per cycle and make them longer or increase the cycles per day, because we are changing 3 to 2 now. So let's look at how we can program a controller. The first one thing to call out is that I'm using 2 examples here, a standard one and a smart one. Most controllers, the other controllers can be slightly different, but the main way to manage are about the same. So if you just look at this example, you can pretty much apply that to other controllers if those are the ones that you have. So first, you program, you select the program. So based on the hydro zone that we just talked about. And then you set these 3 different things. That's the 3 basic settings for each program. How often? Now, because we only can water twice a week, so that's how we program it. So we program for 2 different days in a week. That's how often. And then the start time, and then the run time. That we just talk about, like 29 minutes, 20 minutes, and so forth. In a smart controller, same thing. You can just go to the specific zone and then program the run time and then the start time. So for start time, the new regulation mandates that it must be before 9 a.m. or after 5 p.m. So either morning or evening, any of those times, as long as they are before 9 or after 5 should be fine. Personally, I prefer mornings because in the morning, the low temperature, low evaporation, good for water efficiency. And then when with the day pass by, the temperature rises, the chances for the bacteria to grow in the soil will not be as big as during the night when the temperature is low and they can grow more easily. So from that perspective, my preference is in the morning, but everyone can have what you like to do. All the controllers also have this functionality to adjust for seasonal factors. So as you can see on the left, there's this budget dial here that you can set that to be either 80% or 100%. So the July or the hottest month can be 100%. And then April or May, the less hot months can be like 70 or 80%. Same thing here in a smart controller. You can just move the dial here. So if you move it to like plus 13.5%, then for all the zones, then the water will increase by 13.5%. So say if now it's really hot and you feel more water needs to be applied, then you can use this dial to increase the water for all the zones. There are other additional technology to help make watering more efficient. One such technology is rain sensor. As you can see, it's this small sensor here, usually installed at the roof top. So when it rains, it can sense or catches, it can sense the water. So it will send a signal to the controller, and the controller will just shut off the upcoming watering. You can see that if you it will be delayed. Currently, it will be delayed for 6 hours. So that's what smart means, right? It can tell the weather condition and then use that to tailor the scheduling. We can talk here. Let's talk. Take a look how we can change the programming to 2 days per week. So as Ashley mentioned, Valley Water has passed this new regulation that now we can only water 2 days a week. So here's one example how we can do it. So as you can see, we can just go to Monday and set that to be the watering day, and then go to Thursday and set that to be another watering day. So that's the 2 days per week requirement. This is another example on the smart controller. So you can see these are the days. So he just picked Monday and Thursday and save it. And that's how it is done on the smart controller. We just mentioned that it's the new regulation, 2 days per week. You can do it like on Monday and Thursday or Tuesday and Friday, just 2 days during the week. We talk about that already. Now that we changed the watering to only 2 days per week, two days per week, then we need to also remember the trees. Trees need watering too, and very much. So like this long, after we program the controller, the lawns, and then the low water plants, they all get their water. But how about the trees? So we also need to give them a deep soak. The rule of thumb of watering for the trees are this. It's 10 gallons of water for each inch of the tree's diameter. Say if this tree here, this I think it's a redwood, is 18 inches in the diameter, then it needs 180 gallons per watering. It's a lot of water, but that's really how much it needs. So that's why in the beginning I said it needs its own zone, its own valve to just manage that watering, because it's very different from all these other plants. After one deep watering, it may go like for 3 or 6 months until the next one. But we do need to give it the deep watering that it really needs. The drip for trees is the better method to water. As said, drip has much lower evaporation, is very precise. So if we go for drip, go to drip for the tree watering, we can just do it for a long time and let all the water slowly dripping down into the soil. Another reason why we really need to just have one specific zone just for trees, just for a tree. We can do that from if we assign a zone just for a tree, then we can program it just like what we talk about. Say if this zone 6 is for the tree, then we can go in and program it either monthly or quarterly and so forth. There are some limitations for controllers. The biggest one may be that it is uniform within a zone. Say, even if it's a low water, the zone is all for low water native plants, they still have variances of the water that they need. For example, Ceanothus is a plant that really they really don't like water or overwater in summer. It might even kill them if you water it too much. But if you it's in this one zone with all these other plants that would not mind water that much, then it's hard, right, to just have its own watering. That's a pretty big limitation for controllers. Another limitation is that for special events like heat wave or seasonal fluctuations, it still very much depends on you or human to make the adjustments. It still cannot be precise to that level that it can follow every single weather event. We can also look at another advanced technology, that's the flow sensors. They are used to monitor the landscape water usage and serve as the early leak detection, the flow sensors. So as you can see, that's the flow sensor. Usually it's installed hooked with it's installed before the valves, but then right after the back valve, backflow preventer. So so it's before the valve, and then it's connected to this smart controller. It is the flow sensor is calibrated for each station, so it can learn how much water each zone is supposed to flow through. So this is where you can, this screen, you can see how the calibration is done. So you enter all this information, and then it comes to this, after its calculation, it shows that this yard, it should be 1.4 GPM. You can recalibrate here. Now, if the flow rate is much higher or lower, this 1.4, then something might be wrong, and then it can send a signal and alarm us that there might be a leak, and we should go check it. So that's how a flow sensor can assist us with better watering. So that's the main content for today's talk. So again, my name is Shelkie Tao with Water Efficient Gardens. We have helped many homeowners design their water efficient landscapes. You're welcome to talk to me, ask any questions, and we would love to help you design and install water efficient irrigation and landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelkie. That was incredibly informational and a whole lot to cover. As folks are kind of processing everything that was just shared and how you might apply what you just learned on your own sites, I do want to uplift a question about where we can find the latest water restrictions and what current updates are. So again, as folks think about their questions, please drop that in the Q&A, but I'd love to maybe offer, maybe Ashley, if you have any updates to share about Valley Water. I'm sure things are ever evolving.
Yeah, so in the chat and in the Q&A section, I added a couple links in there. The first is an update on the call for the water use restriction program. Our board actually voted on the ordinance today, earlier today. So you will find more updated information on our website about the update. But for now, you can read about the water use reduction program. In addition to that, on our website, the second link that I added is our Find Your Water Retailer page. And what this does, if you're not sure who your water retailer is, you can enter in your address and you can locate who your water retailer is. But also on that page, we have links to the various cities and water retailers in our area who have specific water restrictions for their customers. As Shelkie provided as an example on one of her slides, showed the 2 days per week watering schedule. The Tuesday, Thursday, and the Monday, Thursday, and the Tuesday, Friday. That's an example of San Jose's 2 day per week watering restriction. If you live in other areas of the county, those days might be different. So for example, if you live down in Gilroy or Morgan Hill, those specific days would be different. So you can check our the Find My Water Retailer link that I've added in there for the specific days and restrictions in those areas. I did see an additional question about the water restriction and whether it was for all plants or just spray. The 2 day per week, so some of our restrictions are for everything. So there is a restriction on limiting runoff and water waste. That's for any type of irrigation that you would have on site. So if you have drip irrigation that's watering too long and it's spilling over into the sidewalks, that will need to be corrected. The 2 day per week restrictions for sprinklers and for us for lawn specifically for those. However, we do encourage, and actually most plants do not need to be watered more than 2 days per week if they are if you're watering efficiently. So I would encourage you to reduce, even down to 1 day per week for low water use plants. Many of those are adapted for that. And so, even with your drip irrigation systems during this drought, reducing the amount of time, days per week that you water for that.
And Ashley, I'm assuming that this also does apply to trees, or is there a separate regulation for trees?
We so the ordinance does not apply to trees. Actually, in our ordinance, we know that trees should be prioritized in the landscape. So if you need to reduce irrigation in other areas, in your lawn, shrubs, etc., you should still prioritize the health of your trees and the irrigation of those trees. So we do not want folks to let their trees die during the drought. Now, trees should not need to be watered multiple times a week, though. They want a deep irrigation and less frequently. And so, while we're not restricting it to less than 2 days per week for trees, realistically, those trees should not need to be watered that often. Slower and deeper and less often is better for trees. If you have trees within your lawn area and you're reducing your irrigation on your lawn, you'll definitely need to provide some supplement irrigation for those trees in a different way. So, you're having a webinar on tree health, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, the restrictions do not apply to trees, but again, they do need to be watered efficiently. If you're watering a tree and your water is flowing off the sidewalk, that's restricted.
Thank you for clarifying and for promoting our next upcoming event, Tree Care During Times of Drought. I was looking in the chat. Yeah, there's so much related content. This is all, we strategically planned our programming to be in alignment with all of the ever-evolving rules and regulations. As a couple of people in the chat did have questions in particular around trees. So stay tuned. That program will be in June. I'll share follow-up resources. But let me take a look in the Q&A and see if there's anything that either Ashley or Shelkie can help us address. We had one question from Roger who asks for some clarification around determining your soil type. So how can you best determine your soil type when the topsoil is different than below? He goes on to write that the topsoil seems to be sandy, but below seems to be clay.
Well, I think the most scientific or reliable way is do the soil test, the chemical test that the specialized labs perform. That's the most reliable way to do it. Yeah, from what you described, right, it sounds like the bottom one is the real soil type that we should look at more, right? Because that's where the plants will grow in. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, you got to think about what the roots of your plant are touching. And just as Shelkie said, it sounds like you would want to be programming your controller based on clay soils instead of sandy soils. Thank you. We had a question from earlier on, and I think a lot of your presentation probably addressed this, but somebody asked, if you're watering twice a week, how long should the sprinklers run? And I think in short, it always depends on so many different variations, but maybe could you summarize like the top 3 or 4 considerations that you want to have in mind?
Is that a long, or is that the low water landscape?
That is a really good question. You know, I'm making an assumption, but for whoever asked this question, if you want to clarify what you're irrigating, but I make an assumption that if it's a sprinkler, you're likely irrigating a lawn.
So I think that the good reference is the chart I showed in the presentation, the San Jose Water Company chart that shows how long, for how many cycles, and for how many days. So basically that gives you the week-long total for the total watering volume. And then now we are doing 2 days per week. So from there you can calculate how much and how long each cycle should be.
Wonderful.
And if I can add, also, you know, take a look at your water retailer, San Jose Water Company in San Jose. They do restrict irrigation to no more than 15 minutes for traditional sprinklers. So these are the standard, you know, not high efficiency sprinklers that Shelkie discussed. Those as opposed to high efficiency sprinklers that puts out water much more slowly. So keep that in mind too, that your total irrigation per day for those sprinklers shouldn't exceed 15 minutes in those areas.
Thank you. Do you advocate using deep root T pipes for irrigation by garden hose? Not familiar with that.
That's a product for trees, I suppose. Yeah, need to find out a little bit more, but on a high level, that those can be good products in that it adds to the deep water soaking of the trees. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, maybe folks are still thinking about questions. I'm curious if anybody from Valley Water has any other regulations or subjects that you would like to uplift during the time that we have.
Yeah, I will touch on, you know, many of the items that Shelkie discussed today. We do offer rebates for those. I know we didn't cover that too much, but you know, if you do have a standard irrigation controller, we highly recommend upgrading that to a weather-based or smart irrigation controller. That way they can help you make those adjustments automatically. And so you can apply for our landscape rebate program, and we'll drop them, you know, that in the chat. So it's up to $300 for an irrigation controller, which covers the cost of most standard controllers that are on the market now for a residential home. In addition, the flow sensors that she discussed for the rebate, which are really great for early leak detection. You know, you don't want to get your bill 2 months later and find a huge spike and then have to go find it in your landscape, but this can serve as early detection. And so we rebate for those as well. In addition, that one's up to $1,000 per flow sensor, which generally covers the cost of most of them on the market. And then, you know, high efficiency sprinklers, if you do have a lawn and you need to keep it, you want to keep irrigating, you know, you might as well be using efficient irrigation on that so that you're not wasting additional water. So, you know, much of what Shelkie mentioned, the equipment today, we do offer rebates for those.
Thank you for uplifting that. I'll be sure to send resources in a follow-up email as well. We've got one other question from Roger. So a tree needs 10 gallon per inch of diameter. but is it per week, per day, per month? Sounds like they're looking for some clarity on how often you should be doing that deep water.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I would say per watering. Now, I know the natural question is how frequent should that watering be? I think it's really a learn and find out process. It differs for each tree. If we are doing 180 gallons for each watering, I will say it doesn't need to be per week, doesn't need to be per month. Likely, maybe let's say 1/4 or even half year. So I think can just experiment and go and see and just find out the right schedule for the tree.
Nice.
In a-
Recommendation. Yep.
In addition, I'll add a link to Canopy is a local organization in our county that provides really great information on tree irrigation. So I'll drop a link in there for Canopy's recommendation on tree irrigation.
Thank you. We had somebody asking if you have any recommendations on a flow sensor brand.
We can't make specific recommendations, and so it really is dependent on your usage. What you'll need to consider, and sorry, Shelkie, for taking over. We don't want to promote any one brand of another, but what you'll need to consider is what is compatible with your irrigation controller. So that's the best place to start, is figuring out what kind of irrigation controller you have, and it should note which brands are compatible with that.
Thank you. All right, I'm taking a look at the Q&A in the chat. Not seeing any questions so far. So I think we can allow this to be a space if there are any additional pieces that either Shelkie, Ashley, or anyone from the Valley Water team want to continue to emphasize or uplift, I think now would be the time. Or also checking in with the Spanish channel to see if there were any questions from that breakout room.
I saw a question about, don't established trees need more, do not need any more water. I think maybe it'd be a good time to expand on that. If you're, if there's a tree that's established outside of the landscape and it's, accustomed to, the normal weather patterns and not receiving irrigation, it likely wouldn't need supplemental irrigation. But in times of drought, it's important to remember that your trees have been, they've been adapted to the irrigation that they're receiving in your landscape. And so if you're making adjustments to that during a drought, your trees can, they'll feel that even if they're large established trees. So if you have a large established tree that's been in the middle of your lawn and it's used to having, these short amounts of lawn irrigation all the time, your tree has become accustomed to that. And so you do need to switch up your irrigation for those. If you're letting your lawn die, you have to consider switching to a soaker hose or some other form to irrigate that tree because even though it's been established in a situation with regular consistent irrigation. So that's one thing to consider. Also as we get deeper into drought, our water table levels might lower and trees might have a harder time finding irrigation. So just, keep an eye on your trees at this time and, look for signs of stress during drought.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add, I said that in the presentation, just want to add that the landscaping itself, the plants and the irrigation are two big areas for a water efficient landscape. So from both ends, we can achieve the same goal. Lawn is just a very high water use plant type. So, so to the extent possible, if we can reduce or replace the lawn with low water plants, that's definitely a very effective way of saving water. And then also using the products we talk about today and program correctly. That's another big way.
Yeah, really great point, Shelkie. And actually, the previous program that we led with Valley Water was focused on the practice of sheet mulching, which is just another element of decomposing your lawn in place, but conserving water and resources. So there are so many different strategies that can be implemented in a site to be able to conserve your water or reuse your resources.
Yeah, the low water landscaping not only saves water, but as you can see in the photo at my background, all these native plants, they have these flowers. It just can provide the habitat for the local wildlife. It have this huge biodiversity benefit. So it's really one landscape, but many, many benefits. So definitely something to look at. Valley Water has this great rebates program going on right now. It's $2 per square feet if you take out the lawn and put in the low water landscaping. And in cities like New Beatles, it's even $4 per square feet. So definitely a very good benefit, a very good program to leverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for anybody who is joining us who may even be outside of the Valley Water District, I would highly encourage you to take a look at your city or county's website in the water conservation section. Many cities and states are offering rebates for lawn transformations. Okay, we had another question about if either Valley Water or Water Efficient Gardens, if somebody can get a site evaluation for an installed irrigation system, and if either of you offer those, how can they go ahead and apply?
Yeah, I can start with that. So yes, Valley Water absolutely has a program. It's called our WaterWise Outdoor Survey Program. So this is a free program that's offered to residential sites and smaller commercial and multifamily sites in our county. And we'll send a landscape professional out, and they will do, they'll essentially turn on your irrigation controller, run your stations, look for leaks, broken sprinklers, things like that, and flag those for you. They'll also make recommendations about your irrigation schedule and ways that you can program it to be more efficient. If you're within our county and you pay in your water retailer, so you pay your water bill to San Jose Water Company, they have a similar program called their Catch program. So customers of San Jose Water Company will need to utilize the Catch program instead of our WaterWise Outdoor Survey program. But everyone else in the county is eligible for this program, and I highly recommend it. It's a great free program and very informative. And I encourage you, if you have one, to follow the surveyor around, ask them questions, take a look at what they're doing so that you can learn how to do that and look for these things in the future. And we can add a link to that as well.
Yeah, for water efficient gardens, we also offer the service. So the last client we served, actually, she received the audit result from Valley Water and came to us for suggestions for products and installation. And that's what we did for her. We looked at the audit and then found out which right equipment, which irrigation products are right for her. And then we submit the rebate application, gather all those products, and then went in and installed those. So yeah, we welcome to contact us, and we would like to provide the same service.
Awesome. You see the wealth of knowledge that we have here. Thank you all. Let's see. Does anybody, and I'm not sure if you all can recommend, but does anybody in the North Bay help to set up an irrigation controller? Maybe Shelkie with Water Efficient Gardens?
Sure, we would love, send an email to me. It's project@waterefficientgardens.com, and let me take a look, and hopefully we can help you out there.
And for anyone outside of Shelkie's area, or you can take a look, there's also the Qualified Water Efficient Landscapers. It's a certification program that's EPA water certified. We offer trainings for that for landscape professionals. And so if you go to their website, you can also search for people who've gone through that certification in your area, and you can search by zip code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I dropped the link in the chat, quell.net. It's a phenomenal resource, and you can also go ahead and filter based on the different water conservation strategy that you'd like to apply. So folks are qualified and have skill sets to address irrigation, drip irrigation, controllers, gray water, rainwater, sheet mulching, landscape design. There are so many different resources in our area. And again, I'll be sure to drop that in the follow-up email. And that might tie nicely into this other question about referrals for companies that upgrade sprinkler systems or drip systems. Would you say it's a similar answer?
Yeah, similar answer. We also have a landscape professionals list on our website that is landscape design, construction, or maintenance companies who have had experience with our rebate programs. It's not a preferred list of any sort. It's not a vetted list, but it is a list of those who, have experience with guiding their customers through our landscape rebate program. And so that's on our list as well.
Thank you. Here's a good question.
Mm.
Does mulching help to save water? If so, what type of mulch would you recommend? Unanimous head nod. Shelkie, would you like to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, for the landscape conversion program, the rebate program, one of the requirements is to cover the whole surface with 3 to 4 inches of mulch. So it helps prevent the water evaporation and keep water under the soil. So yes, very much. As for what products, usually the tree bark, that's what we go with. I think the important ones are the organic material, so that over time it can just dissolve into the soil and becomes organic matter and improve the soil quality.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Typically when Daliax is doing sheet mulch landscapes, and this was emphasized in the previous program as well, but as Shelkie mentions, an organic mulch is really important if you're trying to build habitat and build your soil health. We're typically using a mixture called arbor mulch, which can be a combination of tree trimmings from Doug fir, pine, alder, a variety of different things. But I would also go so far as to emphasize, if you can, avoid any type of dyed mulch. And I would even suggest that you avoid any sort of gorilla hair mulch or the like shredded mulch, as that folks are coming to find that is significantly more flammable than other mulches. There is a misconception that some mulch is flammable. I would make the argument that when you have mulch on your landscape in combination with a well-irrigated, properly irrigated landscape, healthy soil, healthy plants, your landscape is actually incredibly moist and wet compared to a barren landscape. So in a way, when done properly and planted properly, mulch can actually be fire safe. Yeah, Sandy emphasizes in the chat, improved soil quality also means better soil moisture retention and therefore further saving water. Thank you. I'm just scrolling through the chat to see if I happen to miss anything. Not seeing anything else in the Q&A just yet. We have a few more minutes if folks do have any last minute questions. I think something I can do in the follow-up email is also send our previous recording and program as well, as all of this ties together. All right. Well, I've got just a few closing slides to highlight some of our upcoming events. In case any questions do come up, please drop them in the chat. I want to be sure that everybody is aware that through the Valley Water and Daliax partnership, we have some really inspiring topics coming up. The first is going to be our tree care during times of drought program on June 14th. And then in the coming months, in the later summer and fall, we will be doing 2 programs, one on laundry landscape gray water and the next on drip irrigation basics. Nice, Shelkie, thank you for dropping your email. I'll be sure to send that to folks as well. And I think as we start to close this program, I just want to take a minute on behalf of Daliax to thank our partnerships and our sponsors who help to make programs accessible. and especially big emphasis to our Valley Water team. I really hope that we are able to see some of the folks who are in tonight's program at previous events, or excuse me, at upcoming events. And if you have any questions whatsoever in between now and the next time we convene, please feel free to reach out to either myself, Shelkie, or the Valley Water team. As you can tell, we have a lot of different experts here who can help you be a water champion, a water saving champion in your own backyard or your own front yard. You know, with that, folks, I wonder how the Valley Water team feels about potentially wrapping up. I'm not seeing any more questions. Thank you, everybody, for dropping your contact in the chat. I will be sure to include that in a follow-up email. And until then, thank you. I hope we are all able to connect soon. For our panelists, like I mentioned in the beginning, we will be doing a wrap after this. I've sent a Zoom link in the Google Calendar. If you need it, please feel free to reach out. Maybe by a head nod, do folks feel confident in wrapping up at this time? Fantastic. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you all soon. Have a great evening and stay cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelkie, for all of your expertise. Ashley, Valley Water team, thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.